What's up, legends? Welcome back to another epic what-if adventure. Today, we're diving into a wild journey. What if Deku had Garou's abilities, Part 1. Huge shout out to Thebig008, the mastermind behind this incredible concept. Your support is what keeps this channel alive. So a massive thank you for being here. I've got a powerful story lined up for you that's unique and fresh every step of the way, so let's get right into it. Chapter 1. Izuku POV. Can I be a hero? I'm sorry, son, but it's just too dangerous without having a quirk. There are plenty of ways to help people out still. Join the police, work at an agency, or you could even join a support course and really help heroes out. But you can't be a hero without a quirk, stated All Might. Those words rang out in Izuku's head. All Might turned away from me and started to walk away. But before he could get away, Izuku yelled at him. All Might, I've spent my entire life looking up to you. How can you just destroy my dreams like that? Izuku questioned. I'm sorry, son. I really don't want to hurt you. But it's my job as a hero to protect all those I can, and this is the best way for me to protect you. That's what's great about dreams, kid. They aren't always meant to come true, said All Might, and just like that, All Might left Izuku alone on the roof. He couldn't comprehend what just happened, and before he knew it, he was on the ground crying. Everything Izuku had looked up to in his life just told him it was all pointless. Izuku thought maybe Kaken was right about jumping off the roof. Maybe he could be born again with a quirk and he could actually be a hero. Izuku walked over to the edge and looked down. People walking around, living their everyday lives, and he bet all of them had quirks. Must be great. He turned around and walked through the door to make my way down the stairs. Once down, he started making his way home, and the next thing he knew, his front door was in front of him. He twisted the knob, pushed the door open, and walked in knowing his mom was going to bombard him with questions. Izuku, where have you been? Are you hurt? Is everything okay? Your mom, don't worry about me. I just had a lot on my mind, Izuku said unconvincingly. Inko looked at her son and knew something was wrong. But in the end, she decided not to pry, thinking it would make the situation worse. All right, honey, just know if you ever want to talk to me, I'm here for you, Inko said lovingly. I know, Mom. Thank you. He gave her a smile, and satisfied with his reaction, she turned and made her way back into the kitchen. Izuku made his way upstairs and collapsed into his bed, slowly drifting asleep. News report from later that night. Breaking news. 2 more heroes found brutally beat and unconscious. This looks like another attack by the hero hunter. Make sure to listen for more breaking news and action about this dangerous vigilante. Chapter 2. Once Izuku woke up, he didn't really want to go to school. He had no desire to go and get bullied anymore, especially after what happened yesterday. Inko was in the kitchen and was supposed that Izuku wanted to up already. He usually would have been up by now. She made her way up and knocked on his door. Izuku, honey, are you up? Yeah, Mom. I'm just not feeling that well. Can I stay home from school? Izuku called out softly. Let me check if you have a fever. She felt his forehead to see if he was warm, but when she did, she felt nothing wrong. She contemplated making him go to school, but she knew Izuku wouldn't want to miss school for no reason. So she opted to let him stay home. Okay, honey, I still have to go to work. But if you need anything, make sure you call me, and if I don't answer calls, Mitsuki. Okay? I will, Mom. Have a great day at work, and I love you. I love you too, honey. Once Inko left, Izuku decided to take a walk outside to try and clear his head. He stumbled around until he made his way into a park. He sat down on a bench and tried to think about what he could do with his future. He was so dead set on being a hero that he never came up with what he would do if he wasn't one. For once in his life, Izuku was lost. Bakugo POV. Bakugo walked in fashionably late like always and took his spot in the middle of the class. He looked over towards True Quirked Loser desk and noticed he wasn't there. Maybe that damn Deku finally listened and killed himself. The day went on like normal until the final bell dismissed the class and Bakugo made his way home. He split off from his friends. Hell, they weren't even friends. They just followed him and listened to him cause of his strong quirk. As he was getting closer to his house, he looked into the park he was passing, and a kid with a head full of green hair. That damn Deku. Did he think he could skip school and avoid me? No way in hell am I gonna let him off the hook for that. Hey, you shitty nerd, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Izuku flung his gaze so he could see who yelled at him. He saw Bakugo walking towards him, tiny explosions sparking off his hands. Kachin was just getting over my cold. Izuku stuttered out. Bullshit. You wouldn't skip school even if you broke all your limbs. Bakugo spit out, each word containing more hate than the next. Bakugo grabbed Deku by the collar and pulled him up off the bench and delivered a punch straight to the gut, knocking the wind out of Izuku as he fell to the ground. Useless fucking trash. That's all you are, you damn Deku. You're such an eyesore. Why don't you take the hint and kill your quirkless ass so none of us have to deal with you anymore? Bakugo stated. Izuku lied on the ground as tears started to come to his eyes. He was tired of being pushed around by Kakin and just wanted it to end. He was going to kill himself. He just wanted it all to end. But little did he know a figure was watching the entire encounter from a distant tree. Kakin stuck his hands in his pocket, satisfied with his work, and turned his heel. Once he was out of the park, the figure dropped from their tree and made their way over to Izuku. They extended a hand down to Izuku and helped him stand. Once Izuku was back on his feet, he studied the man in front of him. He wore baggy gray sweatpants and a tight black top that outlined all his muscles. He had grayish hair that had 2 points to it. Thanks, Izuku said. No problem, kid. What was his problem? Asked the figure. Oh, that was just my friend Kakin. Izuku said shyly. Well, he didn't look like your friend. I don't have many friends myself, but I'm pretty sure they don't abuse each other like he did to you. He stated. Kakin just different. He only does it because I'm quirkless. Izuku said while looking down at his feet. He expected the figure to look at him in disgust or just leave him since he found out he was quirkless. But to his surprise, the man stayed there. Izuku looked at him and asked, "Why are you still here? I'm quirkless, doesn't that make me an eyesore to you?" Look, kid, if I got disgusted any time I saw a quirkless person, I would avoid mirrors at all costs. The man said with a slight laugh. Izuku's eyes widened as he looked at the man. Are you quirkless too? Damn right I am. I don't need no damn quirk to defend myself. Izuku couldn't believe what he was hearing. The man in front of him looked as if he was the strongest guy ever, besides All Might. How could he be quirkless? What's you name, kid? Asked the figure. Izuku Midoriya, sir, stuttered Izuku. Cut the sir crap. I'm barley in my 20s. I'll walk you home, kid, so you don't get hurt anymore, said the figure. Can I ask your name before you follow me home? You know, so it's not like, stranger danger. Izuku said quietly. Garou. They walked home in silence until Izuku told Garou about a shortcut through one of the alleyways. They made their way through, but about halfway through a man jumped out and held a knife at them. Give me your wallets and your phones. Now, demanded the man. Izuku quickly reached for his stuff, but before he could even get it out, he saw Garou's first connect with the man's face and drive him into the wall of the building behind him. The man hit the wall with so much force that cracks streaked out from the crater he was impacted in. Izuku just stared as Garou stood back up straight and walked over to him. How did you do that? Izuku asked quickly. Oh, that old thing? Just some martial arts moves some old geezer taught me. Garou said nonchalantly. Some martial arts moves? You just created an impact crater comparable to a pro hero's, shouted Izuku. That stuck a nerve with Garou. Look, kid, don't wrap me in with those heroes. I'm not one of them and I never will be. What? Why? Because heroes aren't what they are supposed to be. They only do the job to get recognized for their actions and get a good paycheck. None of them do it for the goodness of their hearts. And it pisses me off. Izuku looked at the man in front of him until Garou met his gaze. I'm from a small town in northern Japan. The only people that live there are those that are quirkless, and it's amazing. Then one day a hero came on his travels and asked to stay with us. We all welcomed him with open arms, and within a couple of days a villain appeared and started burning down the town. We all called for the hero to help us, but he stated, not yet. I need more damage to be done, so it looks really good for the news. My sensei stopped the villain and got into a fight with the hero. Garou said quietly. What happened? He attacked my sensei. So I killed him. Chapter 3. What do you mean you killed him? Izuku asked quietly. What do you think I mean, kid? I took his life. But it's not something I'm proud of. Killing is wrong, and I only did it to save my sensei. But even after that, I got banned from my home. Since then, I've just stick to hospitalizing my opponents. Garou stated. What do you mean your opponents? Izuku questioned. Never mind, kid. "Let's get you home, kid," Garou said with a hint of annoyance in his voice. The two walked the rest of the way to Izuku's house without any more conversation. Once Izuku got inside, he quickly ran to his room to watch the man that walked him home leave. He saw him walk slowly down the road until he got down into a squatting position and jumped, breaking the ground all around him as he leapt onto the roof of the 3-story building. Izuku was shocked and blinked to make sure he saw everything correctly, but when he did, Garou was gone, but the damage to the ground was still there. Izuku sat down at his desk and quickly pulled up a search tab. He tried to find any information of the town the man said he was from, but found nothing. He kept scrolling until he saw a picture of an older man and Garou standing together. He skimmed the article which talked about how the sensei felt bad for his student to banish him, but had to do it because it was the right thing to do. This didn't sit well with Izuku. Why would the man Garou saved banish him? He killed the hero, but was he really that bad? He shut his computer and looked at the clock. 10 p.m. Dang, it's way later than I thought it was. "Izuku, honey, is that you?" He heard someone call from outside his room. "Yeah, Mom, it's me. How was work?" "Long and tiring, but it's all okay because I get to see you in the end," she said lovingly. "I love you too, Mom. I'm gauging to get some rest, so I'll see you tomorrow," Izuku called. "Good night, honey. Sweet dreams." Izuku heard his mom close the door to her room and instantly grabbed his shoes and a jacket and slips out through his window. He couldn't sleep. His mind was going a mile a minute. Where could Garou have gone? And why is he so dang powerful for someone quirkless? What Izuku didn't realize is that he was starting to want to be like the man he met earlier. He looked like he could put up a fight and hold his own against anyone, even without a quirk. Izuku thought maybe he could convince him to train him so he could still be a hero, but he knew it was a long shot. Izuku kept walking around until he stopped in front of an ally and heard noises coming from the darkness. An hour earlier, Garou dropped down from the roof he was waiting on when he saw the pro-hero Kamui Woods getting closer to him. Woods saw the man drop down and decided to investigate. The man walked for a little bit before seeing the man turn down into an ally. He followed behind him, making sure not to be seen, but as soon as he got deep into the ally, the man he was following disappeared. "I know you can see me. Come out and fight like a real man instead of hiding in the shadows," Woods said with confidence. Before he could react, a punch connected straight to his jaw and sent him flying back onto the ground. When he looked up and saw the man he was following earlier standing above him, cracking his knuckles. "Come on, pro-hero, don't tell me you're already done. I thought you would put up more of a fight and make this entertaining for me," Garou taunted. Izuku walked down the ally until he saw two figures that looked like they were fighting. But once he got closer, it didn't look like much of a fight. Instead, more of a beating. There, the pro-hero Kamui Woods stood with only a few scratch marks on his body. The man across from him was bleeding profoundly and had gashes covering his body. Izuku got closer and realized the man in front of Woods was actually Garou, the same man that saved him earlier. He watched from behind a trash can as Woods started to talk. "This isn't a fair fight. You're quirkless and on the brink of death. Surrender now and I'll take you in while you're still conscious," Woods said. "You know, that's the thing I hate about all you heroes. You say you care for others, but I know what you're really like. You don't care if I live or die in this ally. You only care if I die because it would look bad on your record," Garou said as he stood his ground. "Being honest, I don't care if you die where you stand or not. I'm a hero, so I can do whatever I need and people will believe me over a villain like yourself. You're just sealing your own fate and making me get more paperwork." As Woods finished his statement, he brung his arm up and pointed it at Garou. Izuku watched in horror as the hero's arm shot towards Garou's heart, but right before it made contact, the wooden arm snapped off of Woods and flew into the side of one of the buildings surrounding them. Woods screamed out in pain as Garou just started blankly at him. "Fuck this, I'll kill you on the spot," yelled Woods. Izuku watched as he raised his arm and aimed it at Garou. His arm started to grow more and more, sprouting off extra limbs. Each one looked sharp to the touch. Just as Woods shit his arm towards his assailant, Izuku realized Garou wasn't moving at all. He stood his ground, all while a smirk grew on his face. As the limbs got closer and closet to Garou, it looked like he was done for. But right before impact, Izuku saw Garou's hands move, a blue stream following each one. His deflected each branch with little effort, and before Izuku could comprehend it, Garou had swiftly appeared in front of Woods. In one swift motion, Garou swept out Woods' legs from under him and drove his fist down onto his face. He followed through the punch, bringing him to the ground, leaving an unconscious pro-hero stuck in the ground, surrounded by an impact creator at least 1.5 feet deep. He stood up straight and walked over to Izuku, who just stared at him with awe. He felt something rubbing down his arm and saw blood gushing out of multiple stab wounds. Before he could do anything to them, Izuku had taken off his jacket and started applying pressure to the major wounds in an attempt to stop the bleeding. "Why are you helping me, kid? I just took down another hero." Izuku flinched at the statement. Another? Had he done this before? How many other were there? Is he safe to be around? Izuku didn't know what to ask, so he settled on the obvious. "Are you the hero hunter everyone's talking about? And what if I am, kid? I want you to train me." Chapter 4. Stop joking around, kid. Who would want to get trained by a vigilante? Just get your ass home before you get hurt. Why? Do you not think I can defend myself? I want you to train me so I can defend myself. I'm tired of people walking over me like I'm trash. I want to be able to fight back. Garou looked at the kid in front of him. He saw the pain in his eyes. The same pain he felt years ago when he couldn't stand up for himself. "Shit, I'm gauging to regret this, but fine, kid. I'll train you," Garou said reluctantly. "You really mean it?" Izuku beamed. Yeah, don't get your nuts in a twist, kid. Your life's going to be a living hell while you're learning under me. By the time I'm done with you, no one's going to stand in your way," Garou said with a smirk. "What do you mean, a living hell?" Izuku asked, scared. You think you can learn everything in a couple of days, kid? Fat chance. Took years for me to get this good. But in time you'll be where I stand," Garou said. "And where is that?" "On top of others," Garou smirked. "Meet me at the park we first met at tomorrow and we'll see what potential you have." "Wait, I have school," Izuku called. "School? Never really was a fan of going to school. But you do whatever you want, kid. Be there once you get out, or you can kiss any chance of you getting stronger goodbye." "I will, sensei." Izuku bowed. "Cut that formal shit, like I said. I'm not that much older than you." Izuku nodded his head and took off in a sprint on towards his home. His mind was set on one thing and one thing only: what was going to happen next. Before he knew it, he was at his front door. He slowly turned the knob and slid through the body-length crack. He quietly made his way to his room and lied down, and before he knew it, he had drifted into sleep. Izuku woke and got ready for school. He ate breakfast with his mom and made his way to school. It was like any other morning, but in reality it wasn't. Last night, he dreamt of many things, but one stood out from the rest. He dreamed of fighting heroes and villains. He smiled as he finally reached school. He started walking to class, but before he could, he felt a hand on his shoulder. "Oi! You damn Deku!" yelled Bakugo as he slammed Izuku into a locker. "Kai-kan, how are you doing?" Izuku stuttered out. "Shut up, nerd, and don't try and change the subject. I just came to remind you that you still have the option of being a hero." "I do." "Of course you do, Deku. All you have to do is find the tallest building in the city and throw yourself off the roof of it, and poof, you'll have a quirk in your next life," Bakugo said as his hand slowly started to burn Izuku's shoulder due to his quirk. "Kachin, you're hurting me," Izuku spat out. Bakugo scoffed at him and let him go. He turned and walked away as his so-called friends followed him, rubbed his shoulder, and slowly made his way to class. He sat down just as the bell was ringing. "All right, class, today we're going to talk about what is to come of next year. And obviously you all are applying to be heroes," the teacher said as the class erupted in excitement. "Don't lump me in with these extras, teach. I'm going to be above all of you. I've taken all the mock tests and aced them all. There's no way I won't get into UA," Bakugo yelled as he jumped onto his desk. "Ah yes, Bakugo, I forgot you wanted to go to UA. If I'm not mistaken, so did Midoriya," the teacher said as all the eyes in the room turned towards Izuku. "You damn DKU, you have no chance in getting into UA. You have a worse chance than the rejects. You're quirkless," Bakugo called as he slammed his fists into Izuku's desk, leaving hand imprints from the small explosions fuming out of him. "Midoriya, you can't get into UA with just studying. You need an actual quirk," said a random classmate. "I know, Kachin, but I won't ever know if I don't try," Izuku whispered. Before Bakugo could respond, the teacher had made his way over and put his hand down on the hothead's shoulder, signaling him to go sit down. The day went on like any other normal day, but as the bell rung to signify the end of the day, Bakugo and his friends stayed behind, blocking Deku from leaving. Listen here, you shitty nerd. You better not apply to UA or I can promise you I'll kill you on the spot, Bakugo demanded. Izuku stood in fear and watched as Bakugo laid one of his hands on his shoulder. He winced as he waited for the burning to start, but slowly opens his eyes once none came. When he did open his eyes, she saw Bakugo had grabbed his hero journal from his desk, and before he could say anything, Bakugo used a small explosion to set the notebook ablaze. He threw the book out the window and made his way out of the room, slowly followed by his friends. Izuku stayed for a second and just stood in fear. He looked at the clock and realized he was late and quickly grabbed all his things and ran towards the park. As he exited the pool, he stopped and looked in the fountain. Sitting in the middle was his burnt hero book. He went to grab it but stopped and broke back into a run. A single thought in his head. No sense in having a hero book if I don't plan on being a hero. Izuku ran through the park looking for Garou until he found him sitting on one of the benches. Jesus kid, took you long enough. I was beginning to think you were gonna chicken out, Garou said he as he got up and started to walk away. I'm sorry. I got held up by some bullies in my class and they wouldn't let me leave, Izuku called out as he caught up with his new called mentor. Don't worry about it. Eventually those bullies are just going to be another step you have climbed on your way to being at the top. So how do we start this off? Asked Izuku. Well, first off, before we start anything, you have to understand what you're going to learn. It's a martial art style known as Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist. It's the perfect harmony between offense and defense. Each blow is meant to be hit with the intent of crushing your opponent. It'll take you a while to get the hang of it, but sooner or later you should get the hang of it. Garou explained. What do you mean I should get the hang of it? Izuku stuttered. Well, it all depends on if you break, Garou said with a cruel smile on his face. Chapter 5. 7 months later. OF puffed out Izuku as Garou landed a punch square in his gut. Izuku stumbled back before I start having a coughing fit. He raised his arm to cover his coughs. Once he stopped, he looked down at his arm and saw red droplets of blood lining his arm. Alright, that's enough for today, called Garou. What don't you think you can keep with me, Mr. Hero Hunter? Izuku joked. But before he could finish laughing to himself, he felt his legs get swept out from under him. He went right down and smacked onto the concrete floor below them. Wow, another cheap shot, Izuku said. He rolled his eyes. No such thing as cheap shots when your life's on the line, kid. I thought you would have caught on to that by now, Garou stated as he offered a hand to Izuku. As Garou leaned down, Izuku took him by surprise by landing a kick on the side of his leg, causing him to buckle onto one knee, followed up by a quick jab to the right cheek. Not bad, kid, Garou said as he wiped the blood from his nose. I learned from the best. Izuku shrugged as a smile came across his face. The two got up and made their way out of the abandoned building and onto the streets. They walked in silence until Izuku spoke up. So do you think I'm ready to come with you on patrols? I don't know, kid. I know you could hold your own against most heroes and villains. The only problem you would have it with the top 10 heroes or the lords of the underworld. But that's not what I'm really worried about. As soon as you attack your first person, you're a vigilante, which means they are going to know your fave and look for you non-stop. Do you really want to live a life in the shadows? Well, when you put it that way, not really,
Izuku said duetly.
Exactly. The only way I can think of you coming with me is if you were to wear a mask. But even then, it would only be a matter of time until a hero picks up on it. Besides you and me, there's no one around hero that move the same way. They already know what I look like, so as soon as you move without your mask on, they can piece two and two together, Garou explained. Well, shit, don't worry about it, kid. We'll figure something. But before Garou could finish his statement, a lady behind them started to scream. Somebody help me. He took me purse. Garou kept walked, but Izuku stayed still. He mind conflicted on what he should do. Does he help the lady out or follow his mentor? With thinking, he was already running back towards the lady. He caught up with the man that snatched the purse and quickly backed him into a corner. Stay back, fucker. I got a knife and I'm not afraid. But before he could finish, Izuku had knocked the knife out of the man's hand and punched him square in chest. knocking him out instantly. He felt a hand on his shoulder and looked up expecting it to be his mentor. But he was wrong, so very wrong. The man holding his shoulder was none other than the man who crushed his dreams so long ago. All Might. Izuku couldn't move. All he felt inside was pain and anger. All he wanted to do was crush the man in front of him, but he knew he couldn't. Not even Garou could. Well done, my boy, stopping that robber. But I must say you shouldn't use your quirk without regulations. Someone as strong as yourself can easily hurt others without training. All Might boomed. Izuku just stared. His body refused to do anything but stand still. You know, my young son, you remind me of myself when I was younger, running head into battle without even thinking. With that intuition, you could be a great hero. The word echoed in Izuku's head. A hero was all he ever wanted to be. But the man in front of him crushed that dream, and now here he is saying I should be one. All because of my quirk. He doesn't even remember me from the first time we met or that I'm quirkless. Pathetic. You should apply to UA. It's a great school where you can learn to master your abilities. I think you would make a great impact on everyone there. You really should apply. I must go now, for villains never rest and remember plus ultra. All Might screamed as he ran away faster than the eye could see ya.
Llame a hero. Whoop-de-doo.
Izuku said as he started making his way back towards Garou. He found him buried in the large crowds of people so the heroes wouldn't see him. You happy, you little idiot. Not only did you let everyone see your movement, but you got seen by a hero. Not good at all, Garou said as he flicked Izuku's forehead. Hey, my bad, I helped someone in need. But I think we can turn this into something good, Izuku said as a smile turned on his face. What do you mean? Garou asked, confused. Not here. Somewhere where no one can hear us. The two made their way over to one of the building and made their ways up the fire escape until they made it to the roof. So what's this mighty plane of yours, kid? Garou joked. Simple, we infiltrate UA. Chapter 6. Whoa. You mind repeating that for me, kid? I don't think I heard you right. No, you heard me perfectly. We're going to infiltrate UA. Well, not you, but me, Izuku said with a grin. Why would we do that? What could we possibly gain from sending you into UA? You're not going to become a hero on me, are you? Garou asked seriously. No, of course not. But think about it. We both hate heroes for the same reasons. It's because they're not doing it for the right reasons. Why not send me in and try to sway them the right way? It's not that easy, kid. You forgot that the heroes are still going to be there. They are going to teach the kids the same way they learned. So you won't make much of an impact. You're supposed to be on the path of crushing heroes, not joining them, stated Garou. Then why not send me in and purge them from the inside out? I can learn how they operate and dismantle them from the inside.l, and at the same time I can improve my skills. Izuku pleaded. He really did want his plan to work. But deep down, he knew the main reason he wanted to go was because he had dreamed of going there since he was young. I gotta think about it, kid. I just think it's too risky. As soon as you make a move on one of them, your cover's going to be blown. Let's just talk about it later. If I'm not mistaken, the entrance exams are in 3 months, so we have a little bit of time to really think about this. The two kept off the roof and heading towards of the many abandoned buildings they used to train in. Izuku had made a lot of progress when it came to his body, but when it came to the actual martial arts form, he needed a lot of help. He could barely keep a continuous stream of blue flowing from his hands. It usually faded after 1 or 2 strikes. All right, kid, today we're going to focus on creating a continuous stream. Each hit has to be precise and hit with the intent to win. So let's see what we can shape you into, Garou said with a malicious smile. 2 months later, Izuku took a deep breath before sticking the wall in front of him. He repeatedly bashed the wall as he tried to break through it. Garou watched from the side as Izuku held a perfectly consistent stream of blue and each blow causing a significant amount of damage. That's enough, Garou called. Izuku stopped and looked over at his mentor as he nodded his head, giving him the instruction to break through the wall. With one final blow, the wall exploded and shot backwards as Izuku stood back up and marveled at his work. You're getting better by the minute, kid. I feel like you could probably take down most of the heroes at this point. Give or take a few. Wipe yourself up and meet me outside, Garou stated as he turned his heel and made his way out of the building. Izuku quickly grabbed his shirt and wiped off his sweat and ran after his mentor before they made their way down the street. Izuku was so deep in thought trying to figure out what Garou was going to say that he didn't even notice his mentor stopped. "Hey, you all good, kid? Yeah, sorry. I was just lost in thought. You know how I am." Izuku said, embarrassed. "Trust me, I know. But we have to talk about something serious, kid. I want you to come on patrol with me tonight." Izuku's heart skipped a beat. The moment he was waiting for was finally here. "Are you serious?" Izuku asked. He was praying Garou wasn't just messing with him. "Hell yeah, I'm serious. Did you see what you did to that walk today? You're finally ready to start taking out these so-called heroes and make a difference in society. But before we go out tonight, we have to get you an outfit to keep you under the radar." "Why do I have to hide under the radar?" Izuku questioned. "Because when you can't be recognized or your cover is going to be blown at UA." Garou motioned over time the large building in front of them. Izuku likes to where Garou motioned, and it clicked that they were standing in front of the prestigious UA High School. Izuku's eyes started to tear up at the beautiful sight in front of him. "Jesus, don't be such a pussy, kid. It makes you look weak." Izuku let out a laugh and wiped his eyes off. He looked at the school he admired so much and realized what he had to do. He wasn't going there to make friends or be a hero, but instead break them down and show them what a real hero should be. The two walked away from the school and into a side alley that was starting to get dark from the sun setting. Garou threw his bag towards Izuku, who caught it on reflex. "Put these on." Izuku opens the bag and looked at what Garou had gotten him. Inside was a plain white long-sleeve sweatshirt and tan khaki pants. He quickly changed and walked over to Garou, who was in his signature loose gray sweats and tight-fitting black long-sleeve shirt. "Hold yo, kid, you're forgetting the two main parts." Garou handed Izuku a small capsule and mask. "Those are red-colored contacts to hide your bright green eyes, and the mask is self-explanatory," Garou explained. Izuku put the contacts in with ease and studied the mask before putting it on. The mask was a replica of All Might's face. How ironic that the last thing his victims see is number one raining hell upon them. Izuku threw his hood up and pulled his stings so no hair would show. As they made their way up to one of the roofs, they ran around for a bit until Garou pointed out their victims. From the looks of it, there were two of them. Pro-heroes Gunhead and Fourth Kind. Garou motioned for me to drop into one of the following allies and to hide in the dark. He kept following them until he dropped down to confront them. "What's your deal, punk?" Fourth Kind questioned. "Nothing really, besides the fact I'm going to wipe the floor with your asses." And with that, Garou disappeared into the darkness behind him. The two pro-heroes ran into the ally and found him standing there all alone. "You must be this hero hunter we've been hearing about. Am I correct?" Gunhead asked. "That you are my friend, and if you don't mind, I'm going to add you to the list of heroes I've hunted." Garou smirked. "You're in no place to attack us. It's 2 against 1. There's no way you can beat both of us." Fourth Kind spoke up. "Oh, Fourth Kind, you're wrong on so many levels. First of all, I could easily hospitalize both of you on my own, and second of all, who said I'm alone?" With Garou finishing his statement, Izuku emerged from the darkness to face the pro-heroes. "I assume this is your apprentice?" asked Gunhead. "Right again, Gunhead, but you don't have the pleasure of fighting him. Tonight, you're all mine." Before anyone could comprehend what happened, even Izuku, Garou had launched himself at Gunhead and landed a massive shoulder check, sending him flying back further into the ally, leaving a good amount of distance in between, allowing each hunter to fight their prey without any interferences. Chapter 7. "You're just a kid. I have no intention of fighting someone as young as yourself." Fourth Kind boomed. Izuku charged at Fourth Kind, who attempted to block Izuku's right hook only to be blasted in the face by his left. He went airborne from the impact and skidded across the ground when he landed. "Don't look down on me, Fourth Kind. If you do, I won't hesitate to break every single one of your precious arms," Izuku said evilly. Fourth Kind stood up and wiped off the blood from his nose. "You damn kids are so fucking arrogant. It makes me sick." And with that, Fourth Kind charged Izuku. He tried to grab Izuku with his two bottom hands, but each time he went for the grab, Izuku dodged and landed quick jabs to Fourth Kind's sides. "Fuck this, I'll take you head on." Fourth Kind puffed out. He ran full speed at Izuku, but little did he know that's what Izuku wanted all along. He waited until fourth kind was closer, and then right before they collided, Izuku smirked with a deathly look on his eyes. He raised his hands, blue following behind each, and proceeded to lay relentlessly into four kind. Each hit sent shock waves of pain all over the pro hero until he was on his knees gasping for air. "Who the fuck are you?" he coughed out in between spitting out blood. Wouldn't you like to know?" Izuku said as he raised his fist to deliver the final blow. But right before it collided with his victim's face, one of fourth kind's arms shot up and grabbed Izuku's fist. "Not so tough, no kid," fourth kind said as he proceeded to use his 3 free arms to pummel Izuku. After a good onslaught of punches to Izuku's midsection, he stopped and held a limp body in front of him. "Don't tell me you're out already, pipsqueak," fourth kind laughed. "Who said I was out?" Izuku let out with a laugh. Fourth kind stared in horror at the kid in front of him before feeling his arm that was holding his assailant break in multiple places. "Ah, fuck," fourth kind screamed. "Shut up, bitch," was all Izuku said before he broke the rest of fourth kind's arms and delivered a devastating kick straight to the face to knock him out cold. The kick was so intense it knocked the metal right off of fourth kind's jaw. Izuku looked down at his wounds and saw his shirt was tattered in several places. He felt a little blood from his nose, but overall he felt nothing too major that could be fixed with a first aid kit. He walked back further into the ally to find his mentor bent over the pro hero. The pro's helmet was torn off and it looked like his face was bashed repeatedly into the ground. All around the two was blood red leaking from the downed hero. Garou, on the other hand, was perfectly fine other than his short being cut in a few places. He looked over at his student and made his way over to see how much mercy he showed fourth kind. "Jesus, kid, you had to break all 4 arms?" Garou asked. "Hey, don't look at me. I was gonna take him out early, but he was being stubborn," Izuku pleaded. "Bullshit. You're way too skilled for him to even land a hit on you. You wanted him to stop you so you could go all out." Garou smirked at Izuku. Izuku shrugged, and the two made their way out of the ally before anyone noticed the massacre that had occurred. They made their way up to one of the surrounding roofs and treated their wounds. Izuku changed his clothes as well, while Garou opted to stay in his clothes regardless of the rips and tears. The two made their way off the roof and heard sirens starting to head towards the ally. "How much you want to bet they're out of commission for a couple of months?" Garou asked. "Couple? No, you mean closer to half a year, right? I broke all 4 of his arms and you made Gunhead look like a smashed watermelon. There's no way in hell a couple of months will do them any good." Izuku laughed. "Yeah, you're right, kid. Let's get you home. You have an exam start studying for," Garou said as he gave Izuku a playful noogie. The two made their way down the street, but what they didn't see was a fuming boy with spiky blonde hair who started to follow them. They walked for about 5 minutes until they heard someone yell behind them. "Stupid DKU. Where the fuck do you think you're going?" Bakugo screamed at them. Garou watched as Izuku's confidence left his body completely. He started to shake in fear of the kid walking towards them. "Who the fuck are you?" Bakugo asked the tall man. "Why the fuck should I tell you?" Garou looked down on him. "The fuck did you just say to me, you fucking tattered ass homeless piece of shit?" snarled Bakugo as his hands started to let off little explosions. Garou leaned down so he was eye level with the bully in front of him. "You heard me, you little pissed off hedgehog that can't even keep his quirk under control," Bakugo yelled as he raised his hand to blast apart the man in front of him. "Kakin, don't!" Izuku yelled, but it was too late. A blast shot upwards right into the air and Izuku looked to see what happened. Garou has snagged Bakugo's wrist and pointed it to the sky. "Look here, punk, you think about using your awful quirk on me again and I'll put your ass in the hospital, and if you as so much lay a finger on Izuku, I will break you hand piece by piece. Finger by finger," Garou said as he dropped the kid onto the ground. Kakin just sat there and stared at the man who just put him in his place. He was fuming. Every bone in his body was telling him to go all out and show this shit what he could do. But his brain held him back and thought it was a battle for another day. Garou and Izuku made their way to Izuku's home in silence until Garou spoke up. "I know you can fend yourself now, kid, but as soon as that guy got near us, you forgot everything. You can't hesitate or you're going to die," Garou said as he flicked Izuku's forehead. "I'm sorry, it's just he was my best friend and suddenly he bullied every single day. He told me to kill myself. All because I was quirkless. It's okay, kid. Just turn that into your advantage. Whenever you see him, be determined to prove him wrong and show you don't need a quirk to flatten his ass, Garou said jokingly. Ah, thanks Garou. I'll see you later. Night, Izuku said with a yawn. Night, kid. As the two went their separate ways, nothing big happened that night. Heroes arrested villains, villains committed crimes, and 2 new victims of the hero hunter were found in an alleyway. For Izuku, though, it was a big night. He finally got to go on patrol with Garou and hunt his first hero. He was ecstatic, and to add more on top of that, he had his entrance exam to UA in the next couple of months. He was so excited he could barely sleep. But his excitement eventually died down, and he drifted off into a dreamless sleep. Chapter 8. 100 more, or we're not stopping till it's dark, shouted Garou. Izuku pushes himself back up, trying not to buckle from the amount of pressure he felt in his shoulders. With each push-up, he could hear his bones cracking, begging to be given a rest. He just kept his head up, though, and pushed through so he wouldn't disappoint the man he looked up to so much. All right, kid, take a rest, Garou said as he threw Izuku water bottle and proceeded to down the entire thing. This had been their everyday routine over the summer. Each day, wake up at 5 a.m. and train until 3 p.m. In the afternoon, Izuku didn't mind it much, and it made sense that he had to be in top shape to do well in his entrance exams tomorrow. You think I'm ready? Asked Izuku. Kid, you could pass with your eyes closed. Just do loose sign of what the goal is once you're in. Izuku nodded his head. He thought back to the plan they created so long ago. He had to infiltrate UA and eventually take down the so-called heroes the world praised. They had made great progress in their past couple of patrols. They had knocked out upwards of 25 heroes, 3 being in the top 10 with Edge Shot being the highest ranked. Hey Garou, we should go celebrate for all the progress we've made, Izuku said as he got up. Sure kid, why not? The two made their way down the street until they got to a nicer ramen shop. Izuku got regular ramen while Garou was more daring and got the extra spicy. The two left the store before people realized who Garou was and made their way to a local park to have dinner. The two are in silence until Garou spoke up. Holy shit, kid. They were not kidding about this being spicy. Izuku let out a laugh and leaned back to look at the sky. He was really happy with how everything was now. He haven't run into Kaken anymore. He got Stinger every day. He didn't have to worry about being a hero or being quirkless. But most of all, he had a friend that liked him for who he was. He started to drift his thoughts into UA. Yeah, he knew it was a risky mission, but it would be worth it, right? He was so happy now. Did he want to risk it all? What you thinking about, kid? Garou asked as he noticed Izuku was zoning out. Just everything great that's happened in my life these past months. I'm really thankful for everything you've taught me, Garou, Izuku said with a smile. Me too, kid. It's nice having someone around that knows how to think straight. But I'm not done training you yet. After hearing what you said, I think you're mentally ready for the next big thing. And what's that? Asked Izuku. Follow me, kid. The two made their way down a nearby alley until Garou stopped and spun around to face Izuku. He reached into his pocket, and before Izuku knew it, he had a gun pointed right at his head. What the fuck, Garou? Yelled Izuku as he jumped back. Garou laughed at his reaction and walked over to give Izuku the gun. Lesson of the day, kid. How to beat a bullet. Izuku's eyes winded at what his mentor just said. Beating a bullet? That's impossible, right? Alright kid, all I want you to do is point it at me and shoot one shot. Got it? Izuku didn't move. There was no way he was going to shoot the man in front of him. He just couldn't. He was about to speak, but Garou bested him to it. Look, I wouldn't ask you to do this if I knew I couldn't do it. Okay? Izuku nodded and raised the gun to point right at Garou. He wanted to close his eyes and not watch what was about to happen, but he knew Garou would be pissed if he chickened out. Izuku took one last deep breath before he put his finger on the trigger and pulled. A loud bang echoed throughout the alleyway, and Izuku just stared at Garou in disbelief. As soon as the trigger was pulled, Izuku saw Garou move at such a high speed he could barely comprehend it. He saw Garou swiftly redirect the bullet away from his center mass and into the ground below him. See kid, now it's your turn, Garou said as he grabbed the gun from Izuku and pointed it right back at him. Wait, no. I am not ready for this shit yet, Garou, Izuku pleaded. Garou raised an eyebrow and contemplated just shooting at the kid, hoping his reflexes would just kick in. That's how he learned it so long ago. Damn it, kid. Looks like we haven't made as much progress as I thought we did, Now come on, let's go before someone comes to investigate the first shot. Garou stated as he put the gun away. The two left the ally in silence and made their way to Izuku's home. They said their goodbyes and Izuku went inside to get ready for his big day. His mom came to talk with him for a little bit about her being scarred of him getting hurt. His mom didn't know anything about him being a trained martial artist or a vigilante, so it made sense for her to be worried. He assured his mom he was fine and that he had to get to bed. She gave him one last hug before letting him go off to bed. Izuku went through his daily routine of getting ready for bed. After he was done, he lay down and took a deep breath. Tomorrow's the big day, Izuku said with a smile on his face as he drifted off into his sleep. Izuku woke up to his alarm blasting in his ear until he slammed his fist onto it. He looked down at his clock and realized he might have hit it too hard as it was not in a million pieces scattered across his room. He quickly made his way downstairs and grabbed a quick snack before he started his way towards UA. He got there relatively early and made his way through the gates, but as he was admiring the surrounding structures and tripped on his own foot. Izuku prepared to catch himself but stopped once he realized he wasn't moving anymore. He was stuck in mid-air. He felt a hand on his shoulder start to pick him back up before the person released her quirk. She was a cute brunette girl with a nice bob cut. "Hi, my name's Ochako Uraraka," she said as she held her hand out for Izuku to shake. "Izuku Midoriya," Izuku said as he shook her hand. "Sorry for using my quirk on you. I just didn't want you to trip and fall. It's bad luck right before the exam," Uraraka explained. "Thanks. And good luck on the exams," Izuku said nicely. With that, Uraraka made her way forward and Izuku followed until he got to a large room with a bunch of seats. He took a spot next to some random kids and listened as the ceremony begun. Nothing really happened during it besides some blue-haired kid with glasses yelling at someone for not taking it seriously. Izuku chuckled at the memory as he made his way to the starting gate. He looked around to see if Kaken was there. He knew he had to be in one of the testing areas. There was no way he wouldn't attempt to get into UA. He didn't see the bully around but say the bob-cut girl that helped him earlier and started to make his way towards her. But before he could get to her, a loud bitter went off and someone yelled out "Go" as the doors flew open to the arena. Izuku quickly made his way with the crowd into the arena before looking around. "This will be a piece of cake," Izuku said to himself, bros diving into the action in front of him. Chapter 9. That's another 12 points, Izuku thought to himself as he destroyed 2 more robots. He had tried to keep a low profile throughout the entire exam. He wanted to keep as many people in the dark as he can about his strength. But all that got thrown out the window when he heard a loud rumble and crash coming from the center of the arena. He ran towards the huge crash and was a little taken back from the huge robot in front of him. It had to be one of those 0-pointers that Loudmouth Hero was talking about. Izuku turned to go back to get to himself some more small robots but heard a girl's hitting for help behind him. Izuku scanned the area and right in the path of the robot's foot laid a girl that was trapped under some rubble. Izuku ran forward and as he got closer he recognized the girl from before the entrance ceremony. The same one that saved him from embarrassing himself. Shit, Izuku thought as his feet took off on their own towards the massive robot. He got within range and leaped with all his might, leaving a crater of rubble from the impact of him taking off. He soared up until he was above the robot and started to fall towards the head once gravity started to take effect on him. What the hell am I supposed to do? Garou never taught me how to fight a big-ass robot. Izuku thought he was done for, but as soon as he was in range, only one thing crossed his mind. Fuck it! Izuku lashed out with all his speed and strength in a massive volley of blows to the head of the robot. He was surprised to see each hit was causing a good amount of damage to the robot, but it was nowhere close to what he needed to stop the robot from crushing the girl. Izuku knew he had very little time left to make a decision and decided to use a secret technique Garou had taught him about once Izuku knew martial arts form well. Flashback. Listen up kid, cause this could save you life. Izuku nodded his head and paid close attention to what his mentor was about to teach him. It's called abandonment. It's where you let go off all your mental precautions and conscious ties. It allows your body to move at peak performance and not have anything hold you back. But it's got a big downfall of having a good chance at destroying your body if you go overboard. So if you use it, be careful and only as a last resort. End flashback. Izuku closed his eyes and took a deep breath and allowed his mind to unwind. Let go of everything. Focus on increasing your strength and become one with the steam. Izuku opened his eyes and pulled his fist back to strike. He blasted the robot with all he had, and on impact the entire robots caved inward. Izuku started free-falling and had regained his conscious ties, but on his way down, the hand of the robot that had previously been raised up to clack Izuku fell downward since it wasn't able to control itself. The ahem slammed onto Izuku's back, propelling him faster towards the ground. Izuku knew he couldn't stop, so he did the best thing he could think of. He put his arms in a blocking motion and closed his eyes right before impact. A loud boom sounded throughout the areas for the second time during the exam. The participants watched as a green-haired boy leaped up and laid into the zero-pointer. They all knew nothing was going to happen and resumed to run away when the unthinkable happened. They watched as the boy blasted the face of the robot, sending it backwards in a falling motion. They were all dumbstruck at the amount of strength a kid their age could display. They watched as he started to fall to the ground until the robot's hand smacked his back, prolonging himself forward. Each participant watched as the boy rocketed into the ground, sending smoke and rubble everywhere. The alarm sounded off, signaling the end of the exams, allowing kids to start to relax. Some kids started to stretch out, but others were more intrigued of the boy who was embedded in the middle of the arena. One of the people was Uraraka, who couldn't help feel responsible for what had happened. Only if I wouldn't have gotten stuck, then maybe he wouldn't have had to take such a hard hit, Uraraka said as she walked over to Izuku's lifeless body. Excuse me, kids dimes, anyone need healed up? Asked a small old lady. A couple of kids took her up on the offer and she laid a big kiss on their arms to start healing them. A coupon of kids recognized he as UA's famous healer Recovery Girl and knew they were in good hands. Recovery Girl made her way to the boy embedded in the concrete and studied his body. She knew he was alive, but barely. She started to stench her lips put to give him a kiss when he suddenly started pushing himself out of the rock. Izuku stood himself up and looked around and noticed everyone was watching him. What are you all staring at? Izuku asked. Young man, how are you able to move after taking such a hit? Asked Recovery Girl. Izuku shrugged and moved his arms, feeling his joints crack every second. The announcer from before yelled out to everyone saying they could go home and wait for their letters in the mail. Izuku wasted no time in getting out of the arena before anyone could question him further. Recovery Girl squinted her eyes at the green-haired boy as he made his way away from everyone. Something was off about that kid. Maybe it was his quirk and he healed fast, but that was the only explanation she could come up with. So that's it? Come on, dumbass, I told you to keep your strength to a minimum. You don't want any more eyes on you than we need, Garou said as he flicked Izuku. Well, sorry, I had to save someone and make myself look good. It's a lot harder than you think, Garou, Izuku stated with a shrug. Whatever, kid, let's just hope you get in, so we can do this dumb mission. Yeah, you and me both. Chapter 10. 1 month later. So how was it beating down the oh-so-great hero of the Skyhawks? Asked Izuku. Garou shrugged his shoulders. He gets more hype than he deserves. He wasn't even able to land a clean hit on me before I broke his left wing. You most heroes can't keep up with you, Garou. You need to get some actual competition and have a good fight, joked Izuku. Whatever, kid, as long as I'm hunting heroes, I'm content. As Garou finished what he was saying, Izuku felt his phone vibrate. Mom, honey, a letter from UA came today. It's in your room for when you get home. Holy shit. The letter's here, Garou, Izuku yelled as he grabbed his things and started running home. He kept running, not even eating for Garou to catch up. He heard him yell someone about texting him after he opened it, so he assumed he wasn't going to follow. Izuku made it his house and burst through the door, scaring Inko in the process. Geez, honey, you're going to give me a heart attack someday if you keep bursting through like that, Inko said. Sorry, Mom, I have to open that letter. I know, honey. It's on your bed. Inko watched her son run towards his room and slam the door. She quietly tiptoed her way to the edge of his door, trying to hear anything from inside, but eventually gave up when she heard nothing. Izuku walked to his bed and saw a white envelope with a big red seal on it. He slowly picked it up and took a deep breath before opening the top. He pulled out a small piece of metal that was the size of a hockey puck and inspected it until he found a button on it. Here we go, Izuku said to himself as he hit the button. His room lit up as the projection started up. After a couple of seconds, the picture came into view, and standing in front of him was All Might. Hello, young Midoriya. You put quite the show on during your exam. You had all the teachers impressed, and most of all, you impressed me. Who gives a shit, All Might, said Izuku under his breath. You have quite the powerful quirk, if I must say, and I can't wait to see you in action more at school. That's right, young Midoriya, you made it into UA. Come now, son. For this is your hero academia. The hologram of All Might boomed. Izuku sat back in his chair and took in everything around him. He had made it into UA. His dream school. Well, once his dream school. At least for the moment. It would only be a matter of time until the school finds out he's actually quirkless. Flashback. Okay kid, everything's filled out on your application. All you have to is nail it in and wait for the exams. Hey Garou, can you let me see it? Bo for you see it up? Knock yourself out, kid. Izuku read over the paper and everything seemed to be right. But he didn't like the last part of the application. Quirk. Right now it was left blank, but Izuku knew UA wouldn't allow him to test if it wasn't marked or if he was quirkless. What should I mark? Form quirk. Why the hell would you want to put a quirk down, kid? You know they would figure out you don't have one eventually. I know, but think about it. I get into UA and then they realize a quirkless kid is good enough to compete for the top spot. Whatever, kid. As long as you get in, it doesn't really matter. A smile grew across Izuku's face as he thought about what fake quirk to write down. In the end, he just wrote down Hunter. Happy with his decision, Izuku folded the paper and got ready to send it in the mail. End flashback. Izuku grabbed his phone and shot Garou a quick text. I got in. Well, of course you did, dipshit. I trained you to the best, so there was no chance of you failing. Don't jerk yourself off to hard, Garou. Yeah, you kid. I'll see you tomorrow, so we can talk about how school's going to go. Sounds good. Have fun on patrol. Always do, kid. With that, Izuku put his phone down on his dresser and got lost in thought. It was actually happening. His dreams were coming true, well, at least some of them. I wonder if Kaken got in? Yeah, he probably did with how strong he is. I hope he's changed, but I really doubt it. And with that, Izuku drifted off into sleep. Izuku made his way down the street until he got to the park him and Garou always met at. He looked around for the familiar set of gray hair and saw him meditating on a nearby tree branch. He made his way over, and before he got within 10 feet, Garou dropped down from the branch and looked over to him. Congrats, kid. I knew you could do it, Garou said nicely. Hey, don't give me all the credit. You were the one that trained me and made me strong. That's where you're wrong, kid. I may have physically improved your body, but everything else is your own mental doing. You're the reason that you're this strong. Not because of me or All Might or anyone else, only you, Garou explained. Izuku was caught off guard by his mentor's words. He never had seen Garou on the happy emotional side he just displayed. Izuku felt something warm on his cheek and lifted his hand up to wipe away a tear of joy that formed due to the compliments he just received. Come on, kid, don't go all soft on me, joked Garou. Hey, I'm not soft. I just had something in my eye, explained Izuku. Whatever, kid. When do you start? Tomorrow. Beep, beep, beep. Izuku slammed his fist down onto his alarm a kili harder than he should have. At this point, he might as well buy up in bulk for the amount he accidentally smashes into pieces. But now was not the time to think about clocks. It was Izuku's first day at UA and he couldn't be more excited. He got up and quickly got up and grabbed his uniform, a uniform he only dreamed of wearing. He put it on and quickly grabbed some food before walking out the door. He walked until he reached the big gates of the school and took one last glimpse before making his way indoors. 1A. That's the class Izuku was looking for, and after a while he found the huge door leading to his new class. Izuku took one last big breath before whispering to himself. Here we go. Chapter 11. Izuku opened the door, and it would be an understatement at the least to say it wasn't what he expected. In front of him, he saw a couple of students he had never seen before, and on the opposite side of the room, the blue-haired boy from the entrance ceremony was yelling at none other than Kaken. He couldn't tell what they were yelling about, something about having feet on desks? But as soon as the blue-haired boy saw Izuku, he started speed walking his way overs. Hello, my name is Tenya Iida, and I'm the boy from the entrance exam. I just wanted to say that what you did was very heroic, and I would have done the same if it was not an exam. I hope you can understand and not judge my actions too harshly. Whoa, it's all okay. I haven't judged you for anything and I understand. We didn't know about rescue points, so it's all good. Izuku said sheepishly. Thank you very much. If I may ask, what is your name? Questioned Ida as he lifted his hand for Izuku to shake. Oh yeah, Izuku Midoriya. Izuku said as he shook Ida's hand. At the mention of Izuku's name, more or less all the students in the room locked eyes on Izuku, including Kaken, who was glaring daggers at him. "Hey, aren't you the kid that took out the zero-pointer?" asked some kid with a lighting bolt on his blonde hair. Yeah, I guess I did," Izuku said with a shrug. "That's freaking amazing, Izuku. Do you know how strong that thing is?" "Denki Kaminari," he said as he stretched out his hand. Izuku went to shake his hand but stopped once. He saw a spark of electricity run through the kid's eyes. "Oh, sorry. I've got an electric quirk, I wasn't trying to shock you," Kaminari said jokingly. "No problem," laughed Izuku. As soon as Izuku went to move forward, he felt a tap on his shoulder and realized it was the bob-cut girl from the endurance exam he saved. "Oh my god, Midoriya. We're in the same class," yelled Uraraka excitedly. "I know, what are the chances?" Izuku said with a smile. "I have a feeling we're gonna be good friends mid-dash." But before Uraraka could finish, a yellow caterpillar-looking thing popped into the doorway. "If you're looking for friends, then get out now. This is a hero course, not a playground to meet friends. In your seats now," said the caterpillar. "My name is Shoyuta Aizawa, and I'll be your hometown teacher this year. Today, we're going to test your abilities in multiple tests. Whoever gets last in all of the 9 tests will be expelled," Aizawa said as a smirk grew across his dead face. A could of the students spoke up. "What about the welcome ceremony? It's a little fast to go right into things, right? The villains won't stop and leave time for you to socialize or get a welcome ceremony, so deal with it. You all have training uniforms in the changing rooms. Meet outside in 10-inch. The class made their way to the changing rooms, and after changing they went outside. "Bakugo, you got first in the entrance exam. What score did you get in middle school for ball toss?" asked Aizawa. 65 meters, Bakugo huffed out. "Good, do it again, but this time use your quirk and see what you can get," Aizawa stated as he threw a ball at Bakugo. He caught the ball and walked to the circle as he stretched out his arm. "Die," Bakugo yelled. "Daiha? Looks like he still hasn't changed," thought Izuku. 705.2 meters. Oh my god. That's so far, he must be really strong if he got first. Those were some of the whispers from Izuku's classmates, but he wasn't surprised. He knew Kaken was strong, and that's one of the reasons he used to look up to him. Used to. Today's going to be a living hell for you, and if you don't do your best, don't expect to come to school tomorrow. This is what you get when you come to UA, Aizawa said with a horrific smile. First off sprints. Izuku blew through the challenges, but not too bad. He didn't want to get a lot of suspicion towards him for doing so well. It took everything he had to not blow past everyone, but in the end he settled for doing slightly above class average. But that all went out the window when it came to his turn in the ball toss. Izuku grabbed the ball and stood in the circle, and took a deep breath. He knew as soon as he did this a lot of eyes would be on him, but he didn't care. He wanted everyone to know how strong he was, especially Kachen. Izuku let go of all his thoughts and attachments and entered his abandonment style. He knew what Garou would say about only using it in life or death situations, but there was no way he could get hurt here, so he thought it would be okay. He cocked his arm back and threw it with all the force he had. The ball shot into the sky so fast it left an air trail behind it that was visible to the naked eye. 941.07 meters. What? The entire class said in unison. Well, all of them besides one. "What the fuck, Deku?" yelled Bakugo as he ran full speed at Izuku, his hands letting off sparks as he got closer to explode Izuku. Izuku stood his ground and got into an attack position and waited for Bakugo to let loose, but it never happened. His hand came down, but no explosion followed. Izuku was confused, but he didn't wait to think about why. He quickly let off a jab that was followed by a blue stream right into Bakugo's cheek, sending him flying into the ground. "Enough," yelled Aizawa as his hair stood up straight and his scarf starting to float around him. "Izuku, come to meet me in my office in 10. Don't be late," Aizawa stated with no emotion but anger showing on his face. Izuku knew as soon as he saw his teacher's quirk in action that he was fucked. His teacher was the underground hero Eraserhead, a hero that could erase quirks. And Izuku realized that he just used his so-called quirk, while it should have been erased. Fuck me, Izuku thought. He got changed and made his way to his teacher's room. He grabbed the door handle and opened it up, revealing just his teacher behind his desk. "Sit," ordered Aizawa. Izuku moved towards the chair and sat down. waiting for the questions to start coming. Why do you think I called you here? I don't know. Bullshit. I saw it in your eyes as soon as you attacked Bakugo. Should I continue? I still don't know what you talked about. You're quirkless, aren't you? Asked an unknown voice from the door. Chapter 12. Izuku looked towards the door and saw a little figure that walked closer to him. He looked like a large weasel. But for some reason Izuku knew that this talking animal was a lot higher up than he thought. That's why Aizawa quirk didn't work on you. Your file says you have a quirk called Hunter, but that's not true, is it? Asked the weasel. Izuku stayed silent. He didn't want to say the wrong thing and end up in more trouble. Well, I must say I am surprised. I may be looking at one of the strongest quirkless people in the world. Izuku's eyes shot up and stared at the animal in front of him. We know you're quirkless. Just explain to us why, kid, said Aizawa. I didn't think UA would even think of me as an applicant if I was quirkless, so I lied. I knew I would get caught eventually, but I didn't think it would be this soon. Izuku said quietly, well, I understand why you did it, but we can't have you lying to everyone in your class. Starting tomorrow, your class will be informed that you are quirkless, stated the weasel. You can't do that. No one will talk to me or look at me the same, cried Izuku. Watch you time, kid, your talk to your principal after all, Aizawa chimed in. Principal Nizu, if you didn't already know, young Midoriya. I don't see what the problem is, being honest. You were ranked second in the entrance exam, so you note then capable of defending yourself, and plus it would be good for the public eye. Think of all the quirkless kids you could inspire, Izuku. The principal said nicely. Sir, with all due respect, I'm still not sure that's a good idea, Izuku pleaded. We're finished here, Izuku, you may go home now, but just decision is final. You'll understand eventually why it's the smart thing to do, Nizu said as he made his way out the door. Izuku grabbed his things and quickly made his way out of the room. Why the hell did it go south so soon? Izuku wondered, but he decided he wouldn't let it ruin his mission. He could carry on. Izuku's night went the same as any other night. Train, do school work, and then end off his night with an evening patrol. Sadly, Izuku didn't find any targets worth hitting, but Garou, on the other hand, snagged a group of sidekicks as they left their agency. Each one was taken to the hospital and would most likely stay there for a while. After his patrol, Izuku made his way back home and went to sleep trying to figure out what the heck was going to happen tomorrow. Izuku was on his way to class hoping not to run into Kaken. After what happened yesterday and the cheap shot he took on him, it was an understatement he was going to be pissed. Luckily, Bakugo was already in class and was just staring out the window when Izuku walked in. As the last couple of students made their way to sit down, Aizawa appeared from behind his desk, still wrapped in his sleeping bag. Quiet down, class, we have a long day ahead of us. But before we start, we have to clear up some things. As many of you know, Izuku was called down to my office yesterday to discuss some important matters. After careful consideration, the school has decided to fill 1A in about what's happening. At this point, all the students were on the edge of their seats. Even Bakugo seemed to be paying attention. Your classmate Izuku Midoriya is actually the very first quirkless person to be accepted into UA's hero course. So wish him congratulations, or don't. To be honest, I don't really care. After that, a lot of the people in class stopped paying attention to their teacher. Instead, they were staring in shock at the green-haired boy that just dropped a bombshell across the class. Izuku tried his best to ignore it. He really don't want to be known as the quirkless kid, but that stupid principal has to think otherwise. Aizawa ended his lecture, and around the same time, a rapid amount of footsteps could be heard coning down the hall. I in here in a normal position. All Might boomed as he flew into the doorframe. Today, class, we're going to do a good old heroes versus villains exercise. Everyone grab your hero customer and meet at training site A in 10 minutes. Do not be late. All Might finished as he blasted back out into the hallway. The kids grabbed their uniforms and made their way to the changing room. Everyone's costumes were made specifically to go with their quirks, but a lot of eyes were drawn towards Izuku's. All he wore was some baggy gray sweatpants and a tight-fitting black long sleeve that outlined all his muscles. The outfit was special to Izuku. It was the same as his mentor. So it carried a lot of value to Izuku, making him feel like he couldn't let down his teacher. But none of the other students knew that. To them, he was just wearing average clothes. The entire class was waiting around as All Might finished up his directions on how the exercise was supposed to go down. A simple capture the target or secure the payload was all Izuku needed to hear before he tuned out the rest. And now for teams, All Might cheered. Team 1 will have heroes of young Midoriya and Uraraka versus young Ilda and Bakugo. Izuku didn't hear the other teams after that. All he did was stare at Kaken, who was glaring right back at him. Izuku knew one of them was going to be in a hospital bed at the end of the day, and he knew for damn sure it wouldn't be him. He was done getting pushed around by Kaken, and this was going to be his first fight where he could fight back fairly. As the two teams made their way to the designated locations, Izuku and Uraraka decided to talk strategy. Look, I think Kaken is going to leave Ilda with the bomb and try and come after me. All you have to do is get the bomb when Ilda is distracted and we can win, alright? Sounds good, Deku. Izuku's breath stopped. What did you call me? Oh, Deku. I heard Bakugo call you it earlier. It means able to do it, right? I thought it was a good nickname for you, you know? Yo, the first quirkless kid in history to make it into UA, and it's amazing. You're going to inspire a lot of people, Deku. I can feel it. Uraraka explained. Thanks, Uraraka. It means a lot to hear you say that. Now let's go beat some villains, Izuku said as he and Uraraka made their way into the building to confront the imminent danger in front of them. Chapter 13. Uraraka and Izuku hopped in through a window on the first floor and started clearing rooms trying to find their targets. They got to the second floor without anything happening when shit starting hitting the fan. DKU, where the fuck are you? I know you're down here somewhere, Bakugo yelled. Alright, Uraraka, this is the part where we split up. Wish me luck. You've got this. Deku, see you at the victory party. And with that, Deku was left alone to fight Bakugo. Come out, you damn nerd. Kaken, shut up, you're going to give me a headache, Izuku said as he punched the bridge on his nose and made his way out into the open. Trust me, Deku, by the time I'm done with you, you'll have more than a headache. You're gonna have a fucking skull fracture, Bakugo said as sparks started to fly off his hands. The two got into fighting positions and waited to see who was going to make the first move. Izuku knew he was more patient than Kaken, and it was only a matter of time before he rushed him, and much to his expectations, he was right. Bakugo flew at Izuku using his quirk to propel him forward towards the green-headed boy. Izuku stood his ground and saw Bakugo letting his right arm preparing to strike. As soon as Bakugo got closer, Izuku was ready to counter-strike. He spun his body to pick up his momentum, and as he rotated, he delivered a massive roundhouse kick to Bakugo's left cheek. Come on, Kaken, you go to be better than that, Izuku yelled jokingly as Bakugo flew into the wall he was kicked at. Bakugo quickly got up and ran Izuku again, trying to land some solid hits with his fists. But he couldn't land anything. Izuku was playing with him and dodging everything that was thrown at him, and it really was starting to pizzicato him off. Damn, Deku, Bakugo yelled as he landed a solid punch to Izuku's gut and following up with an explosion at point-blank range to shoot Izuku back onto the ground. Dang, Kaken, your explosions have gotten a lot stronger. That one actually stung a little, Izuku said with a cocky smirk. Bakugo growled as he charged Izuku once again, this time using his explosions to rapidly change direction. He moved faster than Izuku thought he would, and what shocked him most of all was that Bakugo has landed several hits on them. And being honest, Izuku actually felt a pain. Izuku studied his movements and figured out Bakugo was moving in a pattern. As soon as Bakugo got within range of Izuku, he grabbed his right gauntlet and swung him over his head, slamming him into the ground with enough force to crack some of the ground. Alright, I'm down messing around, Kaken. Now it's my turn to be on offense, Izuku yelled as he charged Kaken. Kaken was able to block some of Izuku's barrage of punches, but a couple kept getting through, causing pain to start spreading throughout Bakugo's body. As Bakugo saw Izuku going for a jab, he quickly raised his hands and let off an explosion to send Izuku flying back and create some distance between him. The two stood there and just watched each other, waiting for the next move. Both were breathing heavily and each had their fair share of bloodshed and bruises. All Might, are we okay to let these two go that far?" asked Kaminari. "Don't worry, young Kaminari. They're training to be heroes, remember? They won't go too far," All Might explained. "I don't know about that, All Might. Ilda looks pretty into it," stated Kirishima. The class looked at the screen showing Uraraka and Ilda's side of the fight. Kirishima was right about Ilda. He looked like a full-blown villain. He wasn't playing around and was trying his best to beat Uraraka from getting to the bomb. He even has his own evil laugh, well, kinda evil. All the students knew that Ilda couldn't become evil even if his life depended on it. The video screen cut back to Bakugo and Izuku as they kept battling it out. Izuku's hand-to-hand combat was far superior than Bakugo's, but his quirk made up for the difference. The match seemed pretty even until Izuku landed a clean shot to Bakugo's gut. OF, Bakugo spat out. But Izuku didn't waste any time. He quickly grabbed Bakugo by the ear and yanked him sideways with all his might to spin him in midair. Izuku followed through with a kick, sending his opponent flying back, but Bakugo still wasn't done. As he was spinning, he fired off random concentrated blasts, hoping to hit Izuku, and luckily one pierced right through his thigh. Izuku cried out as he looked at the bloodied spot on his leg. He looked up at Bakugo as he stood up with a face full of malice. "I can see the shine all the way from here, Deku. You must have gotten soaked in some of my sweat when you spun me around. I thought you were smarter than that." Bakugo laughed as he raised his right arm up. He pointed his gauntlet right at Izuku, who had all his weight on one leg and slowly tried to hobble towards Bakugo. "You lose, Deku." "Young Bakugo, wait. If you hit HM with that ballast, he won't survive." All Might screamed through the earpiece. "Piss of All Might. Dekus like a cockroach. And no matter how hard you try, you can't kill him," Bakugo yelled as he pulled the pin of his grenade. Izuku watched in horror as a bright light quickly grew inside the grenade and panicked once he realized what was about to happen. Kakin Wai dash. But Izuku's cry was drowned out by the massive explosion hurtling towards him. Izuku quickly threw his arms up in an X shape to try and block the impact, but it was just too much and Izuku was consumed by the explosion. On one of the top floors, Ilda and Uraraka stopped their fighting due to the entire guiding shaking. To the two of them, it felt like the entire building was going to collapse, but Uraraka thought this was Izuku's doing. She quickly ran forward and jumped into the air before Ilda could notice and grabbed the bomb. She was ecstatic that Izuku's plan worked, but if she knew what actually happened, she would know how wrong she was. The class watched in horror from the video room. They had watched a pretty good fight up until the point Bakugo pulled the pin. They watched as a massive explosion shot outwards, destroying everything in its path. It was even strong enough to cause breaks and cracks on the sides of the walls just from the outward force. But what really scarred them was when Izuku was hit. It looked like he attempted to block the blast, but they all knew it wasn't going to work. As the explosion made contact with Izuku, it looked as if his body combusted on his own. It must have been Bakugo's sweat igniting, thought some of the class. Izuku was blasted back with so much force that he broke through multiple walls until he broke through the outer wall and started his free fall to the ground below. Chapter 14. The class watched as Izuku slammed through the outside wall of the building and free fell to the ground. He slammed back first onto the concrete and just laid there unconscious. All Might knew the battle went too far and he should have stopped it, but he was really intrigued at the two fighting. "All right, class, I will be right back and then we will start the next battle," All Might said as he disappeared from the room. He appeared beside Midoriya before looming him over. He definitely has some broken bones, maybe even some burns, but it's hard to tell with all dirt covering him, All Might thought. "I'm sorry, young Midoriya. I'll make sure you get healed and become good as new," All Might said as he picked up Izuku and ran towards the infirmary. Recovery Girl was just minding her own business when All Might burst through the door. "A Recovery Girl, just the person I was looking for. Young Midoriya got pretty beat up in our latest training exercise and needs medical attention. I'm sure you understand," All Might said as he laid the child down into the bed. Recovery Girl went to say something to All Might, but he had already rushed out the door, leaving her with the unconscious kid. She cleaned up the dirt and dust covering him and looked over his body. Second and first-degree burns covered his body as well as a good amount of deep cuts. It would be an easy heal for her if she could use her quirk, but she couldn't due to Izuku having no stamina. She applied some burn cream and bandages before making her way outside to finish up some smaller tasks she had. About an hour had gone by and the final battles just wrapped up for Class 1A. They just finished changing and were all walking back to class when Uraraka spoke up. "Does anyone want to go see Deku with me once class is dismissed?" Sue, Kirishima, and Ilda all agreed they would go once class finished. As the final bells rang signaling the end of the day, the four made their way to the infirmary and looked for Midoriya's room. Found it, called Kirishima. They pushed open the curtain and saw Izuku sitting up in his bed looking over himself. He noticed that most of his wounds were already healed. The only one that was visible was on his thigh from Bakugo's concentrated explosions. Uraraka started blushing at the sight of Deku shirtless, so Tsu broke the silence. "Wow, Midoriya. Recovery girl got you healed quickly, rib bit. Yeah, I know. Her powers are crazy. I feel like I could run a marathon. Izuku said as he started to get up and put his torn shirt back on. As he was getting up, Recovery Girl came back into the room and saw that he was already up and moving. Where do you think you're going? She asked. Oh, I thought that since I'm healed up I'm good to go, Izuku shrugged. Recovery Girl looked him over and told him he was good to go. As the students made their way out, Recovery Girl grabbed her phone and made a call. Principal Nizu, we have a very important matter we need to discuss. The school days went by as usual, nothing really my special happening. Classes were always the same, Izuku starting getting closer to his classmates, and Bakugo still hated Izuku to his core, but at least he made some friends in his Baku squad. The only thing that really happened was some more training exercise and the class selected Momo and Ilda as class reps. Alright class, today we're gonna go on a little field trip, so get dressed in your hero costumes. Aizawa stated. Mr. Aizawa, where are we going? Asked Kaminari. You'll find out soon enough. The teacher huffed out with no emotion. The class made their way to the training rooms and got changed. Izuku was happy to shed out of uniform and getting some more comfortable clothes. He even had a new shirt thanks to Garou after he found out his old one was torched. The class left the school grounds to find a bus waiting for them. Ilda took charge as being class rep and started whistling for everyone go get into a dingle file line, only to be disappointed that people just started getting on the bus and sitting wherever. So Izuku, how is it being quirkless? Asked Zero. Mina slapped him on the head for asking such an inconsiderate question and said, What I think Zero means is, had your life been hard without having a quirk? Oh, my life has been a living hell, Izuku said with a laugh. Then how did you get so strong, ribbit? Sue chimed in. Oh, I just got tired of being picked on, so I started training and busking up muscle. What about that blue steam that follows behind your hands? Questioned Zero. It's just a martial arts technique I studied up on a little bit, explained Izuku. That's one hell of a technique, Kirishima said under his breath. Their conversation got cut short though when Aizawa spoke up. Alright, we're here. Everyone off the bus and wait for directions. The entire class got out of the bus to be met by the Pro Hero 13. The Pro started to explain to the students about how quirks can be used in a variety of ways and how they can be deadly if used incorrectly. He also explained the large building behind him was USJ, a special building designed for rescues training. 13 led the kids into building all while explaining the different areas around them. Wow, this place is huge, exclaimed Uraraka. I know, it's so cool, replied Kaminari. The class kept talking about how cool everything was that they didn't even notice a purple mist spreading out down the steps below. The mist kept spreading, growing larger and larger until it stopped. As soon as the mist stopped moving, people started coming out of it, around 150 people. It was a variety of people. Some looked like average people, some had masks on, and in the back a man with hands covering his body stood next to a large bird-like creature that wasn't anything like anyone had seen before. Whoa, they even have fake villains, cheered Kaminari. Aizawa shot his head in the direction of the skit to see what Kaminari meant by fake villains. Those aren't fake, these are real villains. 13 protect the students and I'll handle them, Aizawa called, putting, as he pulled his glasses up to cover his eyes. But Mr. Aizawa, you don't usually fight large groups, Midoriya yelled as he ran up to his teacher. I wouldn't be much of a hero if I didn't have a few tricks up my sleeve, kid, said Aizawa as he kept down the stairs into the pit of villains below. The class watched as their teacher completely wiped the floor with the enemy and started cheering him on, not noticing the black mist growing behind them. Class 1A, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Kurojiri, and from what I can see, the symbol of peace ain't here like we thought he would be. But don't worry, after we kill some of you, I'm sure he'll come to save the day. It's my job to put that in motion by spreading you out across the facility, Kurojiri said as his fog quickly shot around the entire class, pulling them in until all they could see was darknesses. Izuku hit the ground with a thud and looked around to see where he was. It looked like he was in a forest-type area with Todoroki. As soon as the two got up and dusted themselves off, villains starting emerging from the tree line. I got half and you got half? Izuku asked. Sure, Todoroki replied. Izuku and Todoroki starting making their way, though the villains like it was nothing. I wonder why they put two of the best right next to each other, Izuku thought as he broke a villain's leg. The two were doing fine until out of the corner of Izuku's eye he saw a man holding what looked like a Gatling gun appear out of the darkness. "Todoroki, watch out," Izuku yelled, but it was too late. The man with gun fired off a couple of shots towards the two, one piercing Todoroki's right arm. Izuku ran over to him and starting applying pressure to the wound to try and stop the bleeding, but the ice user waved him off and allowed ice to grow on his arm, temporarily close the wound. "Can you fight?" asked Izuku. "I can't use my left side. I have to concentrate on freezing the bullet wound," replied Todoroki. Izuku knew what that meant. He had to fight off all the villains on his own. The thought caused a smirk to grow on his face. "Why are you smiling, kid?" asked the man with the gun. "Because you're villains. Meaning I don't have to hold back." Chapter 15. Izuku studied his opponents in front of him. He counted 8 total. The guy with a gun looked like the end game of the fight, so it came down to the other 7. One guy had a bow, another a spear, and what the hell shat that? A giant ball on a stick? Out of the rest, there was nothing special. A guy with swords for arms, a guy with guns for fingers, a literal frog, and some dude with glasses. Oh well, these guys look like a bunch of clowns, Izuku thought. Izuku dodged as the 8 starting sending attacks from all directions. He had to dodge bullets, arrows, and a spinning ball, all while keeping an eye out for everything else. Izuku was actually surprised by everything that was happening. He never had been in this position in his life where he was pushed into a corner and had to go all-out defense. He kept light on his feet until he tired to go onto the offensive. Izuku dashed towards the guy archer only to feel pain shoot through his leg as a bullet grazed his calf. While he was preoccupied dodging more bullets, Izuku didn't see the arrows raining from the sky. He tried to backflip out of the way but was too slow and ended up getting too embedded in his shoulder. Izuku whipped the blood off his shoulder and instantly felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. "Look a little dizzy there, don't ya? My quirk allows me to apply a lingering poison to anything I touch, including my arrows," laughed the archer. Izuku was surrounded and his body was starting to feel really tired. "Damn it, I can't think straight," Izuku thought, and then everything went black. Izuku opened his eyes to see Garou standing in front of him. "What are you doing here, kid?" "I don't know. I was in a fight and next thing you know I'm here." Izuku looked around. It looked like her was in a large field, with a massive set of steps leading to the clouds. "You're getting your ass handed to you, kid. And that's not what I taught you to let happen. These guys are just more steps you have to take on your way to the top. Each one gets you closer to being the best, and I'll be damned if you don't make it there. Think of all you have riding on this, kid. You've always been at the bottom, and that's not where you deserve to be. So go back into that fight and make your way up those stairs until you can't climb anymore," Garou said as he put his hand on Izuku's shoulder and motioned over towards the stairs. "Thank you, Garou. I don't know what I would do without you." "I know, kid. Now go give them hell." Garou laughed as everything again went black for Izuku. Izuku opens his eyes and took one step back and everything went into overdrive. As soon as his foot hit the ground, a blade was thrown right at him. He quickly grabbed it and used it to block the bullets coming from the guy with finger guns. "He's got a blade," yelled the man. Izuku noticed the spinning ball was coming right at him, so he quickly deflected and it kicked it with so much force it was sent flying towards the frog villain. The ball smacked into him and Izuku watched as he hit the floor unconscious. Izuku then threw the blade he had towards the guy with guns for fingers and watched as it embedded into the left side of his chest and carried him back into a tree, rendering him unconscious and stuck to the trunk. "Fuck this, let's get him," yelled the guy with sword arms, but was caught off guard that Izuku was already in front of him. He swung at Izuku, who easily dodged out of the way and grabbed him by his belt to lift him up overhead head. He used the man's body to block incoming arrows from the archer and saw from the corner of his eye that the man with glasses threw rocks at him. Izuku swiftly caught all the rocks before smirking and throwing them head-on at the archer. The rocks hit with such an impact Izuku saw his cheekbone, left bicep, and a couple of ribs break as soon as the rocks came in contact. Izuku looked towards the remaining villains with a smile of pure evil on his face before slamming the man he was holding up down into the ground so hard you couldn't even see his upper chest and head due to him being that far down. "That's 4 of you. After I wipe the floor with your asses, you guys should reevaluate being villains because you guys really suck," Izuku laughed. "You just gave up all your shields. You lose, punk," the man with the Gatling gun said. "You wish," Izuku shrugged before running at full speed towards the guy with glasses. The man threw his arms in an X shape attempting to block Izuku's barrage. Izuku laid into the guy until he attempted to fight back. Izuku just grabbed onto his collar and drive his fist into his face, breaking out a few teeth in the process. Izuku heard the Gatling gun start to spin up and quickly starting running behind the trees. He dodged the bullets left and right before dashing towards the remaining 3 villains. It looked like Izuku was going to go head-on but shocked the villains by punching into the ground and ripping out a tree root, confusing the men in front of him. Izuku used this as his advantage and landed a massive kick to the guy that previously had the ball weapon. Izuku was happy to take him out, and it was even better that he felt the man's jaw break apart under his foot. "We need to kill this kid now or it's going to get really bad," the man with the spear said to his partner. "Agreed. Come fight me, bitch. You call that spear a weapon? I calling an oversized toothpick, ya dingus," Izuku called out. The man with the spear's face turned dark red. He was beyond pissed at the kid who just insulted him. He ran full speed at Izuku and started spinning his body, so he turned his entire body into a moving spear. "Too easy," Izuku mumbled under his breath as he sidestepped the man and drive his fist into the man's gut. Izuku noticed he got the man a little of the ground and a smile proceeded to grow on his face. Izuku sent a volley of punches into the man's midsection, each one holding him in the air for a longer period of time. Once Izuku noticed he was unconscious, he raised his right hand up and grabbed the man's hair before being it down and slamming him face first into the dirt. "Looks like it's just you now," Izuku said to the man with the Gatling gun. To Izuku's surprise, the man started laughing at Izuku. "What's so funny?" asked Izuku. "Just the fact I'm about to kill your friend." Izuku had completely forgotten about his classmate, and before he knew it, Izuku was at his side. "Well, this is the end, kid. After what you've done today, I'll see you in hell." That's it for part 1, Legends. Hope you enjoyed this action-packed start. Big thanks again to Thebig008. Your continuous support means everything, and I can't wait to bring you more in the next part. If you liked what you saw, hit that like button, share, and subscribe to keep up with the next twists and turns. Until next time, stay legendary.